I see that our guest has joined us tonight. So before I bring him on, let me give you a little background on Phillip Kennedy Johnson. He's an Eisner-nominated writer and musician. Didn't know the musician part, living in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore region. His comics work has been published by DC, Marvel, Boom Studios, Archaea, IDW, Aftershock, and Scout Comics. He's the creator of comic series The Last God, which is awesome, from DC, Black Label, Last Sons of America, Warlords of Appalachia, Smoketown, and many more, including this week's Alien. Now, this is the really interesting part. Outside of writing, Johnson has a full-time career as a soldier, trumpet player, composer, arranger, and teacher. We'll get to that. I could go through the rest of this here. It's just fascinating, but I'll save some of that for him. So let's bring Phillip Kennedy Johnson on and say hi.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time. I know you've probably had a crazy busy day with the release of Alien #1. First off, where are you right now? Clearly, you're in the bunker of a comic shop, but which shop are you attending?
Exactly right. I'm in the back room of Four Color Fantasies in Winchester, Virginia. I just drove over here today for this signing for Alien and Superman, and or Action Comics, I should say. And but yeah, today's a big Alien day, so it's been super exciting. Tons and tons of signings today, of books getting signed today with, I mean, a bajillion variant covers, and really excited fans. It's been the best, man.
Fantastic. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and we're very appreciative to have you here tonight. And I want to get into the music thing, definitely, but let's talk about Alien. So how did this relationship come about? Did Marvel seek you out? Did you pitch it? How did that work?
I had just done, can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yep.
Usually I have a mic, and today it's just my computer. So let's see. I had just done Marvel Zombies Resurrection. Yeah, nice. Ready to go. I admire that. We had just done that book, and it was still coming out, I think, when this started coming together. And I saw the announcement with everyone else that Marvel was going to be doing Alien and Predator comics. And I just started shouting. It was like I was so stoked about it. And I reached out to my editor, which I never do. I mean, I never ask for work. But I was like, I know you've probably got a team already, but if there's any spinoffs or anything, I will go toe to toe with anyone else you know on Alien lore. I'm just the biggest fan of all this stuff. And for anyone who read Marvel Zombies Resurrection, there's a lot of Alien in that book too. There's a lot of Alien DNA in that story. So I just aggressively reached out. I was like, you need to give me this book. You don't even know what a fan I am and how I've got all these ideas. And he was like, actually, yeah, I bet that'd be a good fit. And I didn't know this, but apparently there was another guy kind of behind the scenes at Marvel kind of going to bat for me to get that gig, which I didn't know. So between, when I kind of kicked the door in and just sort of demanded that book, and somebody else was already trying to sell me on it without knowing how enthusiastic I was for the property, that sort of came together and made it work out. So yeah, and even when the editor on Alien reached out, I got the impression there might have been someone else in the running too, but I never found out if that's true or not. But yeah, they liked the pitch that I brought to them, and now we're on the series, and I could not be happier about it.
Well, I know the excitement level is pretty high. I think you probably saw that firsthand today. Definitely high here in our shop in Lima, Ohio. And I think it resonates with such a broad spectrum of people, age ranges, different walks of life, everything. There are those of us that, I'm in my late 40s. I grew up with these movies, grew up with these characters, but then you've got younger folks that are maybe more familiar with the newer movies and that sort of thing. So how does your story, I guess, appeal to those long-standing fans, but also be accessible to new readers as well?
It doesn't demand that you've seen the movies, and it doesn't expect that you've seen any of the movies at all, except for the first two. If you've seen the first two films, Alien and Aliens, directed by Ridley Scott and James Cameron respectively, you are completely good, because this story comes out after those films, or takes place rather after those films, and before the other stuff. So you don't need to worry about any of the other films that have come out. There's starting at Alien 3 and onward, it kind of becomes this choose your own adventure, whether you want Ripley and Newt and Bishop to be alive or not. And I really want this story to be canon forever, and I don't know, even though I I respect and admire that third film a lot, but not everyone does. And I do miss those characters that we lost in it. There are things about it I love, but I know it's not perfect. And I know that there's a lot of people that in their headcanon, the other, the other way is the truth. And I didn't want to lock into either side of that debate. I feel like I feel like the future of what is considered alien canon is uncertain. Even though we've seen stuff in the films, we don't necessarily know which ones are quote unquote true. So I wanted something that ties into those first two movies because those are the ones that I love the most. And because I think both of them are above reproach. And I love the Bishop character. I wanted to use him. I mean, selfishly, I really love that character. I wanted to see more of him specifically. So he's in it. And yeah, I mean, I try to capture the claustrophobic, like real horror movie aspects of the first film, while also kind of giving a solid nod to the military combat stuff from the second movie too. There's stuff in the second movie that just casts such a long shadow. I think a lot of the other Alien comics that have come before now have just tried to unapologetically ape the feeling of that second movie with the Marine versus the Xenomorph. And it's hard to not acknowledge that in some way because it's such an omnipresent movie in our culture now. But I really didn't want to give up that claustrophobic nature of that first movie too. So I try to take aspects of both.
Well, I think, excuse me, I'm battling a little bit of a head cold today, so occasionally I'm coughing. The main character, he's retiring after years in the military service. He's the only survivor of a horrific, xenomorph attack, and is retiring back home to Earth, trying to reestablish his relationship with his son, who's now an adult. And I think, for me, the human characters are the ones that are going to suck me into this story. I mean, I love aliens. I love the xenomorphs, but there have to be these humans that you can either relate to or cheer for or be shocked when they end up getting killed. So, that gives you a nice segue, I guess, to introduce, I don't want to give too much away in the book, but so I'm doing a horrible job at this. It's the head cold. So tell us about that. How is their relationship going to impact the story?
Well, I mean, you're right that you have to have characters you care about, right? Like you can't just, we've all seen horror movies in which you just see people getting mowed down, or you see like, it's all about the spectacle of the visuals of the film and you don't really care about anyone. And that's not what I wanted this to be. I really wanted to have characters that we learn to care about. So it's not even just about Gabriel Cruz and his son, although obviously they're the center of the book. There are other characters too that you get to know a little bit better, even the ones that just kind of come on screen for a couple of pages and then get off. I want you to get to know as many characters as we can and care about them before anything happens. It has to start with character. And that's another thing that I thought the second film did better than any of the other ones. I mean, the second movie is kind of renowned as this amazing action / horror film, but it's also probably the one with the clearest emotional arcs for the characters. Like you see Ripley in the second film lose her daughter and then kind of find a surrogate daughter in Newt and establish real connections with Hicks and also with Bishop too. Like her immediate mistrust of Bishop because of what happened in the first film, and then the way she comes around and comes to really care for him. That was a lesson that I really try to take from that film and apply it here too. You can't just have people getting mowed down that you don't care about, or I don't know, what are we even doing this for? Absolutely. So and as a father myself, fatherhood is anyone who's read my work, especially lately, sees a lot of father-son stuff in my work. And I apply that here too. I see a guy at the end. You are wrong about one thing. He's not exactly a military man. He's actually a company man for Weyland-Yutani, who's always been the bad guy. And I wanted to see that new perspective of a company guy. He's a security agent, which is very much like the colonial space marines that we've seen, except They're corporate fighters. And I wanted to look inside the bureaucracy of Weyland-Yutani and show this guy at the end of his career that he gave up everything for. I mean, he gave up so much for his career with the company. And at the end of his life, he kind of gets tossed aside by them anyway and stands to have nothing. And he's trying to reconnect with his son. His son is too late from the son's perspective. I feel like there's a real human story there that people can relate to and will be invested in, that will in turn make them more interested in the story that we're telling in Alien. And that's the best Alien movies have always done that. It's about characters more so than the monsters.
Yeah, and actually it was not what I expected. I expected, monsters right off the bat, but it's kind of a slow burn. It's a get to know these characters, but there's still this feeling of dread and suspense, like anything can happen as you turn the page. So it fits exactly with an Alien type of movie.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that you took that and that you felt that way about it. And I knew some people, like, I knew there's gonna be somebody who's like, man, this is too slow and it's not, I don't see any aliens or not enough. People who just want wall to wall, violence. And I get it. It's an Alien book, but if I'm really treating the story like one of the films. I want the story to belong on the shelf next to those first two movies and feel like it is of that same world. Dark Horse put out great Alien stories for years and years. And I do think that some of them strayed pretty far from the movies and don't really feel like they're of the same universe. Like some of them, when you get into the stuff with the royal jelly and some of the other world building things that got added, the different versions of Xenomorphs that we saw over the years, at some point they introduced an android xenomorph that speaks English, and like you see like a xenomorph like chomping a cigar, and it's just stuff that doesn't feel like it's in the same world, and I really wanted this to always be canon. And I wanted to, not just that, but I wanted to feel like those films. So, I mean, if you go back and watch the first movie, you don't see the chest burster scene until almost like an hour in or something. So I hope readers are patient and that some people I know wanted, are expecting like it's wall-to-wall aliens. And I tried to give a fair bit in this first issue, but the characters are just so much more important, and we've got to see who they are and care about them before things start to go wrong. So at the end of issue 1, things go way, way wrong, but hopefully by then people are starting to care about the characters we've put in front of them.
Oh yeah, I think everybody's gonna be fired up for issue number 2 by the time they get to that last panel. So congratulations on that. If you have some more time, I'll ask you another question or two.
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry, there's like a bee in here or something. Go ahead.
I thought it was one of the staff members of the shop, but so you're also writing Superman and Action Comics for DC, right?
I am.
So that's a lot of juggling, and you mentioned the fatherhood aspect as well. That's very clear, at least with your first 2-parter in Superman and Action Comics. I guess you're following Brian Michael Bendis on those titles. What's the elevator pitch for reading Phillip Kennedy Johnson, Superman and Action Comics?
You're going to see Superman at his most epic and badass. Full stop. And you're also going to see the most world building that I can fit into this series. You're going to see Superman on a universal, on a multiversal scale. You're going to see what we've seen him humanized very effectively. We've seen a lot of his cast in the Daily Planet, established very clearly who each person is in his life, how his relationships work. We've seen a lot of big changes to the status quo, and there's going to be changes in status quo going forward too, but in a very additive way. Like I'm adding a lot to the Superman mythology. There's a corner of the DC universe that I feel like has been a little underserved, that we are blowing out like crazy, and we're making the DC universe feel much older, but also much newer. And if you had to boil it down to an elevator pitch, I would just say envision Superman at his most epic and badass, and that is what we're working towards. We're going to put him through the mill. I'm not going to say he's not going to struggle. I know there's people that just want to see him kicking ass every single panel. He's going to have a hard go, but we're going to see what Superman looks like. We're going to see the most epic, badass version of Superman that's ever existed. And we're going to see more world building than we've seen in Superman since the death and return of Superman.
Wow, that's a pretty bold statement.
I know it is.
That's a lot of world building. I'm going to go back.
I've literally been inventing like a new language for the DC universe that really works, and it doesn't even look like language. Like, it's the people who cracked the Krakoan thing. I mean, that's great, but you're not gonna be able to do that here. Like, it's gonna, we've actually not just one language, but several. And you're gonna see different cultures on different worlds. You're gonna see, I mean, the name of the arc in Action Comics is War World Rising. So it's not a big spoiler to say we're gonna see War World again, but it's not just gonna be a big shiny thing with guns sticking out of it. It's a world where people live, largely slaves. We're gonna see what that looks like really down on ground level, not the shiny Death Star looking thing, but we're going to see what it looks like when you get down on the ground, when you get under the ground. We're going to see what those people are like. We're going to see who they are, what their problems are. We're going to see what Superman means to them. It's going to be super duper epic. So I really hope people dig it.
Now, I know the first two parts of your Superman story took place in Superman in Action. Are we going to see that connection moving forward, or is Action going to be its own thing and Superman be its own thing?
They're going to be their own thing. The Phil Hester story in March was a two-parter, and it's done as of Action Comics 1029. I heard yesterday or this morning that a lot of the issues got sent out from the printer and were damaged. So for anyone who's watching that didn't have issues at your store, I humbly apologize. I heard that the printer is sending out more at no charge, and that people are going to be getting them, like the reissues. So I am sorry that for people who didn't get the issue when they should have, but it's getting made right. They're going to make it right. But anyway, so the March issues are a two-parter crossover between Superman and Action that set up both titles. But after that, Superman becomes its own series, and Action becomes its own. Superman is much more about John and Clark together, about the relationship, and you see them both on an adventure together. The Action comic series is the one that we are calling War World Rising, and that is more Clark centric. Although John and Lois and the others are in it, it's more Clark's adventure than the others.
Gotcha. Well, that helps. I mean, I hate to say this, that the communication from DC hasn't been entirely clear on some of this stuff. So since
it's been a little complicated. I mean, it's because we had a two-parter Worlds of War and Future State, and then we had House of L, both very short stories. The Phil Hester was also a very short arc. Honestly, my arc in Superman is not going to be that long either. I don't want to spoil how long it is, but it's not. I mean, I'm not going to be on the Superman monthly very long, really. Action Comics was always going to be the book that I take over for like a long time. Like, Action's going to be my run. Superman is going to the arc that we're in now, that starts in April, is going to be ending pretty soon, and then there'll be another writer on that story. So don't read into that. There's no drama. It was always supposed to be kind of a short time, but Action is going to be going on for quite a long time. But yeah, because of all the short arcs, a lot of that was driven by just the calendar and people's schedule, like the schedules for various books and for various artists and how long it takes them to do stuff and all that. So it's not like Scott Snyder's Batman where you jump on and it's Greg Capullo every day for however many years. It was more, short bite-sized stories, each one with a different artist. And I write to each artist's strengths, so they all feel kind of different too. But I know the communication's been a little confusing because of all the momentum might have been lost a little bit because of all the short runs, but pretty soon that's going to be addressed, and it'll be more solid going forward.
Well, I've definitely noticed that, and we were talking about that earlier before you joined the live stream tonight, just with the Infinite Frontier umbrella that these titles are launching under, with new creative teams and sometimes new first issues. All of them have been so strong right out of the gate. This week we have Stephanie Phillips and Riley Rossmo on Harley Quinn. We have Mariko Tamaki and Dan Moore on Detective. We have just great stuff that's been coming out over the past couple of weeks, including your Superman and Action Comics. So
thank you very much.
Whoever the powers that be over there that kind of took the deck, shuffled it up, threw them up in the air, and now we're getting these just amazing stories coming out of DC. So I'm thankful. I know fans are thankful as well.
Well, me too. I appreciate you guys reading, and thanks so much for the kind thoughts. I'm glad you're digging the stories.
Well,
We got a question.
We do have a question. I'm going to throw that up here right now, but then I got to get back to the music because it's an interesting thing to talk about. So Jonathan wants to know: do you prefer Alien or Aliens? Who's your favorite child?
Jonathan, what a jerk move. I don't know, man. They're both 10 out of 10s, right? I mean, I've got to say, I mean, gun to my head, I say the first one because it establishes the lore, and everything that happens is this mind-blowing thing. Like you see them coming out of the hypersleep thing, and then the next eventful moment we see the derelict, this ship that is clearly not made by humans. Then you see the inside of it with the space jockey, this gigantic creature. I have no idea where it came from. His chest is open. Why? You see the eggs, they open up. It looks super crazy. Like it's hard to even remember what it was like having not seen these movies before, because they're such a huge part of our culture now. But remember the first time that friggin' helmet came off and John Hurt's face has that thing on it, and you're like, Jesus Christ, what am I looking at? And then later you see the chest burster, which, you know, scarred everyone. And then you see the xenomorph, which is suddenly gigantic. I mean, it's just your mind is blown. Your mind is blown again. It's blown again. It's blown again. Just the world building and the creativity that is in that film is just off the charts. To be able to duplicate that would be just the greatest feat. So yeah, man, I guess I got to say the first one. The second one though is a 10 out of 10, man. And the alien, the colonial marines versus the aliens, it's been redone a bajillion times because it's so awesome. I mean, it's such a great iconic visual. The queen, like seeing yourself in the nest now, not just the one alien, but like you're in the nest and you've got the alien queen, and just the world gets bigger, and the emotional attachments that are, you know, arguably better and deeper than we see in the first film. I mean, the first one, because of the world building, because that's kind of who I am, I gotta say number one. But number two is, as a movie, is just as strong.
I think I got to give my 2 cents. I think I could watch Aliens more frequently, but I prefer Alien between the two. I think I can't just watch it over and over and over again. Aliens, because of the action and the fast pacedness and just the constant peril that's there. It's something I can watch more frequently. But Alien, because of its pacing and because I just, you know, I can only grip like the edges of my seat so long and tense the veins in my neck. And so I can't watch that one as frequently. But
right. Yeah. I try to capture the claustrophobia of that first one, but also you've got to have that military stuff from the second one, because it's just such an important part of it now.
So, well, let's use that as my made up segue, the military stuff. So tell us about your life as a soldier and as a trumpet player.
Okay. Real quick, Scott is asking if there's going to be crossovers from other Marvel characters. Not in this run. I'm not going to say there's never going to be an Alien meets Marvel thing. I'm also not saying that there is. I'm not, honestly, like, swear to God, hand to God, there's not been a conversation like, let's do Iron Man versus Predator or Alien versus X-Men or whatever. Like, sorry, those conversations have not happened yet, but I do feel like it's coming. I feel like there's going to be, just my prediction as a fan and kind of knowing what I know behind the scenes, there's probably going to be an Alien run for a while. It's going to be a Predator run. Pretty soon we'll have an Alien versus Predator book. At some point we're going to have Aliens versus Marvel Universe or something. That's probably where it's going to go. I mean, my God, if they bring in Conan, I mean, Conan's in the goddamn Avengers. So like, you know, so if they're bringing in Conan, I don't see them not bringing in Alien at some point, or at least Predator. I mean, it kind of feels like the same universe already, you know, like, I mean, the Brood is already so alien-y. So yeah, I feel like at some point there's going to be something like that, but it's not going to happen in the pages of, you know, capital A Alien, the Alien series. Alien is going to stay, you know, firmly rooted in the universe of the films, as far as I'm concerned. And when they do a crossover, it will be, you know, if they do a crossover, it'll be its own thing. But that's a prediction, not a spoiler.
Yeah, I'm sure there may be something, but they will leap out from those long boxes behind you and take you out if you breathe a word of any future Marvel Alien crossover.
Yeah,
I know we're all looking forward to it, and I've asked myself that question. I'm like, well, what about the Brood? I mean, I love the Brood stories and the X-Men. So how do you have a universe with both the Brood and the alien xenomorphs?
Right. Like you can, I mean, there might be a way there to tie them together and like find a, explain a way, like, work the accelerant into the origin of the Brood somehow, so they're like cousins, or you could just pretend that the Brood are not around while the alien are kind of in the scene. There's different ways they might do it. They could just pretend it's not there, not just not acknowledge it, or they could. I feel like they would have to either tie them together or just pretend they're not there.
Well, that's what good writers are for, right? I mean, right. you guys come up with the ideas that make our heads spin and make comic fans go crazy.
Yeah, so, I would. If it were me, I would tie them together, but it would have to do it very, very. You have to be very artfully done in a way that doesn't feel fake and just tacked on. Right.
Well, let's talk about your other life. Your life as a soldier, a musician, and a teacher.
Well, as far as teacher, I teach private lessons. I teach private students. I don't work at a high school or anything.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as my other gig, my day gig, it's weird to talk about having like a day job at this point because comics have gone very well recently, and now I could just do this. But I still, I feel like I believe in the work that we're doing in the Army still. So I'm in one of the DC military bands. Washington DC, not DC Comics.
That would be cool though.
It would, yeah. So yeah, I play trumpet in the Army Field Band. That is one of the military bands in Washington DC, and I've had that job for about 15 years. Long before I started doing comics. Actually, when I got in, I wasn't even reading comics anymore. During college, I wasn't reading for fun for a while. I was just kind of sold my soul to the practice room and wasn't really reading for fun. I was just doing school stuff. And then it took me a few years to get back into comics after I got out. I was working professionally. I was playing trumpet with the Glenn Miller Band for a while. At some point I auditioned for one of the DC bands and it worked out. And that's where I was when I started getting back into comic books. My younger brother is an artist and wanted to do comics for a living and kind of didn't know how to get started, didn't know how to get going. We were just two, country dudes that didn't really have internet to speak of or know anything. And just didn't know how to get started in the comics industry. And I was like, dude, just come move in with me. We'll just figure it out together. So we got some books about how comics were made, started going to conventions together, and just kind of educated ourselves on how comics were made and how the industry worked, what it looked like, what the community looked like. I started going back into comic shops again, which was amazing because the last time I'd read comics, it was like Batman, Nightfall, X-Men, Battle Saga, Age of Apocalypse, Mullet Superman. Like that was kind of my last era when I was subscribing to Wolverine when I think Larry Hama was writing it, and Adam Kubert I think was drawing it. So it's been a minute, and so I get back into it, and now I'm seeing all these superhero deconstructions like The Boys and Irredeemable, and what's another one that was kind of in that vein? It's not like those, but like American Vampire and Lock and Key, and just so much. Like there's so much more depth than anything. I'm sure there were amazing things coming out back in the day too, but I wasn't aware of them. I was reading just 90s stuff. Spawn. Like I didn't know about Preacher or anything like, I just didn't know what comics were really. I was only exposed to the big two. And I love those books too. But when I got back into it, I was seeing not just what the big two had become, because I was also seeing these new takes on Batman. I think Scott Snyder might have just done did Scott Snyder co-write Gates of Gotham? Was that Scott Snyder? I think
he did. That was it Kyle Higgins and Scott Snyder? I
don't remember. I want to say it was him and somebody else. But yeah, that might have been on the shelf around the same time I was getting back into it. Anyway, and that led, of course, to like Black Mirror and then the New 52 Batman run. And I saw Astonishing X-Men that Joss Whedon and John Cassidy did. And I was just like, Jesus, everything looks so amazing now. And the stories are so much more, they talk so differently than they used to. So yeah, I was just completely blown away. Just got the bug hardcore. Just wanted to be a part of it. So I started writing scripts for my brother to illustrate. But I was also writing just because I loved it. And at some point I started writing for other people. But that whole time I was still doing my day job, playing music and going on tour all the time with the Army Field Band, playing trumpet for the military bands in DC. And, you know, we honor our veterans, and we kind of tell Americans the story of what American soldiers are doing around the country, around the world. We go places where the Army does not have a big presence, and just kind of, you know, represent the Army to American civilians. So it's cool. It's a cool job. I like it, and I'm still doing it. So we'll see how much longer I can do it and not have a stroke. My life has gotten real busy in recent years, because now I'm writing 2 Superman series and Alien and some other stuff I can't even talk about yet. One that was supposed to get announced today, I think. I don't think it actually came out yet. They might not have announced it just yet, but they were supposed to. Probably waiting for the Alien stuff to die down before they announce it. Yeah, I love comics and I love writing, but I also love music and like my job as a soldier. So I'm going to try to do both for a while yet.
Well, we appreciate your service with the being a soldier, being a musician. I played the baritone horn for 12 years, and so I I was there. Nice. I'm there with you with the brass stuff, but I always wanted to
horn. That's an interesting way to say that. So, are you a drum corps guy, or are you like a brass band?
Brass, yeah.
Brass band.
So, yeah. I mean, it was concert band, brass band, and marching band when I was in high school. And,
okay, like I just don't hear people refer to it as a baritone horn very often. It sounds like a British brass band, the way the British brass band would describe it.
Yeah, that was always, you know, we would call it a miniature tuba. You know, it's upright. Always wanted to play the trumpet. Said my 4th grade band teacher said my embouchure was not correct for the trumpet, so I had to go with the bigger mouthpiece on the baritone.
Well, what do they know? You can always pick it up now.
Who knows where my life would have led me? Maybe not owning a comic shop, but yeah. So you have so much awesomeness going on in your life. I just did a quick Twitter search to see if any news had come out about what the secret project was, but I don't see anything. So we'll stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of our viewers, John, just posted here. John was the tuba player in my high school band. We now live a couple 100 miles away, and we're still connected through comics.
That's awesome, man.
That's really cool.
What's up, John?
So Alien #1 out today. Superman and Action Comics coming out. That's coming out like every other week. So they're not landing the same week.
Yeah, Superman 30 will be out next. First week or 2 of April. And that's the first issue of my arc called The One Who Fell. That's with Scott Godlewski. And that's another cool world building one. That story kind of has a little horror tint to it. And I'm kind of excited about.
Scott was the artist on Nailbiter, right?
You know, I'm not sure actually. Okay. I first discovered Scott through the first issues I saw of his were Young Justice, I think. So I own Nailbiter, and
it was Copperhead. It was Copperhead. My bad.
Okay, Copperhead. Right.
Yeah, the Jay Ferber book. So I knew it was one of those two. And it was Kyle Higgins that co-wrote Gates of Gotham. I just did a quick, cool. Had to satisfy my curiosity. So you'll be a little bit of trivia here. 2 weeks ago, Scott Snyder was on our show, and 2 weeks before that, Kyle Higgins was on our show. So.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
But
I like that story. That was, because in Batman, in Superman, all the world building, not all, but much of it can happen like all these other worlds. You can just world build your ass off, because Superman is Superman everywhere. In Batman, the world building happens either in his past, like during his walkabout when he was becoming Batman, or in Gotham itself. And I thought that Gates of Gotham did a really awesome job of building out the world of Gotham and making it feel like a real place with a real history. And I really dug it.
Yeah. And for those of you that may be new to Batman or haven't checked that one out, we highly recommend it. You can pick it up at your local comic shop, I'm sure, or they'll order you a copy. So, Philip, I definitely want to thank you for the time that you shared with us tonight. You've had an incredibly busy day, I'm sure. Hopefully you haven't cramped up too much signing autographs. And if people want to follow you on social media, what's the best platform and what's your handle?
I have a website. This is my full name.com, phillipkennedyjohnson.com. I'm on Twitter a good bit, at Philip K. Johnson, Philip with 2 L's. You're welcome, Mark. Thanks for being here. Let's see. I'm on Facebook under my full name. I'm on Instagram, probably not so much as I should be, but I'm on there a little bit. Well, I'm not sure. Anyway, my full name with underscore. So it's Phillip_Kennedy_Johnson. Yeah, I'm around. So look me up.
I'm sure if you just search Philip Kennedy Johnson comics, you'll probably come up with a list of social media.
You'll get a hit or two somewhere.
Yeah. Well, congrats on all the success with Alien, continued success, and hopefully we'll talk again down the road.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.